Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's D House and Jim here for your next unplayable Star Wars Unlimited video. Jimbo has been in the lab over Christmas,
Mhm.
making some things sing. I noticed the green and red pattern of the deck immediately and think clearly you were inspired. Maybe, um,
'Tis the season,
yeah.
some say.
So we decided to hop on here and talk about this weird deck concept that Jim has been messing with, and maybe it will inspire some creativity out there as well. So, Jim, let's. What is this
Yes.
deck you've presented us?
Yeah. This is top tier meta stuff right
Yeah.
here. It's the stuff of legends. So, a couple quick things. Number one, it's not Mary Swoomis anymore. We had those 12 magical days. And honestly, if you all haven't seen those yet, go back and watch them. Because the inspiration for this kind of came from that. So, it's this idea of like, how do we take something that not too many people are talking about, as in Padme? The amount of times I've seen, man, how do I make Padme good? It's a tough question. So I was like, let's get to it. So I was like, it's red and green, Christmas themed. We love that. It's some fun synergies with Republican Trooper, which I've not personally seen hit the tables too often. And the beautiful thing about this deck builder site, SwooDB, is they give you random deck names. And I got Time to Get Spicy. And when you see Time to Get Spicy pop up on your screen, you know you're about to get into that lab, cook up something deliciously great that's probably going to have like a 40% win rate, and just go to town with it. And so I was inspired. That's why the Christmas hat's here. The Christmas colors are around. It may be December 27th, but it is still Christmas in my heart.
Time to get spicy, indeed. All right, so
That's right.
let's start with Padme. Like what
Yes.
she's got an interesting ability. I'll just read it off for the people. Coordinate action. You pay one, exhaust, search the top three cards of your deck for a public card, reveal it, draw it, put the other
Mhm.
cards in the bottom of your deck in random order. Um, so and then on our other side, she flips at 5 into a 2/7 with restore one. And it's the on attack, right? It's on attack. You basically do the same thing. But you don't
Correct.
have
But it has to have
yeah.
coordinate.
But
Yeah.
you don't have to pay, right? Or you do have to pay.
Do
Not
not have
quite.
to pay, and it's
Okay.
restore one.
So immediately my first question is why Padme and not
Yep.
Rex, who flips says a 5 into a 2/6.
Great question. So this in particular is I wanted to take advantage of like what would it look like to just be able to play out a ton of cards. I think Star Wars Unlimited has such a cool game design where it's like you're really controlling the battle, controlling the battlefield, and it's like I just want more stuff to do. And so a leader that can draw cards gives you more things to do. And so my initial thought with this was, what if we actually build Padme with much like lower costed cards so that you could use the ability, draw an additional card, and you're just playing with a hand of three every single time rather than two, and building up that way. So in my head, I was like, the best opportunity to like put coordinate online, the best opportunity to actually get to use all of those cards that you're drawing is going to be to play a lot of low costed things. And so I wanted to try to figure out like what could we make that would kind of buff itself, to get the gears turning, and then also wanted to kind of have like a good split between space and ground because one, it's more fun, and two, better chance to keep units alive. So if they've gone really ground heavy, you just start building into space. Good opportunity to get coordinate that
Okay.
way, and vice versa if they're going more space
Yeah.
heavy. So that was the initial idea there.
So you're not necessarily trying to spam a lot of token units, or are you?
No, not so much. And you'll see that's why there's not as much to do with the tokens. It's mostly just get a lot of troopers down. However, there are some things that can build tokens in here. So Clone Wars, I do have in here. We'll go through card by card here in a little bit. Shock T on attack is able to get some clone troopers coming down as well. Batch Brothers makes one. There's a few different options on here, and a lot of cards that I considered that are making clone troopers. They just typically were a little too
Hmm.
expensive to make work, and so I went more with the actual cards themselves that are Republican troopers rather than trying to just strictly make more clone
Got it.
troopers.
Okay. Well, yeah, talk me through your early plays.
Sure. So there's a ton of turn one plays. The reason for that is because, yes, of course, you want to get something good on turn one, whether that's the Battlefield Marine, the Green Squadron A Wing,
Which are not
something along
Republic,
those lines,
but
which are not Republic. They're
great
just
cards.
generically
Yeah.
good, heroic red or green. So there's a few cards like that. Red 3 is also in here as a Rebel card. Maz Kanata as well, which is kind of just more fun flavor for me.
You love Maz.
But the majority of everything else is Republic. Um, and so you're trying to play like a 2-drop on turn one, maybe a 1-drop and a 2-drop on turn two, 2-2 drops on turn three. There's a couple things that like cost 4, cost 5 that you can play on those turns, but usually you're actually wanting to play 2 cards a turn rather than just one, because you're always going to be drawing something with Padme's ability as best as you can. And so, yeah, the early game here is really trying to set up, how do I keep a board and keep coordinate online?
Yeah. Yeah. Very
So,
cool. Yeah. It seems to make sense. I think you have enough Republic stuff that Padme's not going to whiff, because I do feel
mhm.
like that'd be like just the worst, right?
Yes. The whole deck is built around this.
Yeah.
So I did some math on it. There's something called like a hypergeometric calculator for all the math lovers in the world. But there's 30 Republic cards in here. And so if there's a deck of 50 cards, you draw 3, it's a 94% chance to
Yeah.
hit one every
Yeah.
single time. So very, very rare, like a 1 in 16
Yeah.
ish opportunity to
Yeah.
miss that.
So the Clone Wars, the card.
Clone Wars. Yeah.
What is your ideal turn? Like what? How many
Okay.
resources you spend it to make this a happy town?
So mostly it's there to get coordinate back online, especially if they're able to kind of control the board, because a lot of our stuff only has 3 health. And one spicy card I didn't include in here was actually Admiral Yularen.
Mm,
It was just too slow. It wasn't a trooper. It wasn't doing everything I wanted it to. And only 2 attack costing for 3 was just not doing enough for me. Um, so ideally, like just 2 extra clone troopers, because you're not trying to give them an entire board of 1/1s, but every so often you can really just like spam a ton of them just to have more total things on board. Especially with like a Commander Cody, something like that, to try to just win the game that way.
mm,
So that's the initial idea there. The other potential play that you can do is if you have the squad support down, which is one of my favorite cards that I want to see work that just can't quite figure out how to do it. It's the 3-cost upgrade. You can't play it on a leader unit, but it gets +1/+1 for every trooper unit on your side of the
mm-hmm.
field. You can already have squad support down and then play the Clone Wars, buff a unit for as many resources as you have -2, and then win the game that way as well as a potential option.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So talk about your top end here, because I have
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah. That's fair, because if you look at top end, there isn't much. There's as far as like actual late game, it's 2 copies of Mace Windu. Reason for that, he is Republic, which is fun. So you can draw him off of Padme. It can be just a game ender as well.
I never connected that in my head that he's Republic. I forgot because he's from
Totally.
he's in a set that had no Republic. Yep.
That's right. And so yeah, you can play that one. You can use all of your original special art Mace Windu's for winning your store showdowns. Some of us only have 2, some of us got 4, and that's okay. But you play it, ambush it, kill something, and then it's just 5 damage. It's really good opportunities to kind of come in over the top to win. Kind of that direction was my idea there. But the rest of the top end, I would say just 4 and up, because there's only 7 total cards in the 4/5 range. So Shakti is there just to buff the clone troopers that you have, as well as just to get to create some more on the attack. It's one that they kind of have to answer, which allows your other units to just swing into base. This deck is pretty aggressive. 2 copies of Indefensive Camino is just kind of like a catch-up mechanic, as well as if you need to do a full board cleared with what you have, you can get away with it. I only have 2 copies in here just because it's a dead card most of the time. But if you have a full board, they have a Sentinel or something like that that you need to work through, and at least let you slowly chew through it, heal back up. It's a card I don't want to play, but it can get me out of some sticky situations when needed. And then 3 copies of the Clone Commander Cody. This card is just a beast. I mean, they have to answer it right away. Otherwise, all three of your units are attacking for just so much damage. The overwhelm can come in handy really well. Like I said, there's not a lot that's just like on the unit itself. There's a lot like there's not like the Kit Fisto with 7 attack in this deck. There's not like K2SO that's just naturally having 4. So a lot of them are already pretty low attack things. So you're typically gonna have to swing twice to kill
Yeah.
something. But Cody helps you get to that point and make that happen because it gives all your units. It doesn't matter if they're heroic, if they're troopers, if they're republics. It doesn't matter. As long as you have 3 total units down, Cody's online.
Yeah.
And I also like it because Padme comes out on 5, and so you can play Cody as well to kind of get coordinated as long as you just have one other unit out there and get it rolling on 5.
Yeah. Is there an argument for a Captain Rex unit in here if you're going for coordinate?
There's definitely an argument. I just think it's too slow personally because you're playing it and it's a lot of stats hitting the board, but you're not doing anything that turn with those stats. At least with Cody, you're allowing the other units to kind of get that buff and make things happen. The only reason I was really considering it is because I am running 3 copies of Timely Intervention because it is time to get spicy, of course. And so you could, Timely Intervention a Rex to at least deal 4 damage, but that unit itself just isn't doing enough in my opinion.
Well, the reason I thought is because squad support, you're getting +1/+1 for each trooper unit. So the second you play Rex, that adds 3+3+3 to that.
Right. Yeah, and that's definitely worth consideration. I think I was going for more of like, hey, it's cool and that works, but I wasn't trying to just go all in on the squad support strategy. Ideally, I'm playing that squad support on like the Anakin's Interceptor or something.
Makes sense.
Because it doesn't matter which battlefield it's in, it just can't be the leader. And so that's kind of the ideal play. But I think if I'm trying to go all in on that, I'm probably going to be missing the mark a little bit.
I really wish squad support didn't say non-leader unit.
Could you imagine that on Padme?
That would be pretty stinking wild. Like that could, or that, I mean, and I don't even think it'd be that broken or anything. I mean, we've got General's Blade as a 3 cost +3/+3 already. So, gosh, it would have been, that would have been fun, but oh well.
Yeah, totally agree. A couple other like tricky things in here. As you noticed, or just said, there is no General's Blade in this. I was looking at Hu Yang. I was looking at Ayla. Kit Fisto was on there as well. It's just some force units. Anakin was on the board for a little bit, but got cut pretty quickly. And so there just wasn't enough Jedi users to really like warrant looking at the General's Blade. And so that's why I went with a couple copies of the squad support instead. Okay. But if you wanted to go more force heavy, you can. Those are just a little bit more mid-game cards. And so that would kind of just change the feel of this deck quite a bit if you're trying to go like the force throw, General's Blade, force strategy.
Yeah. All right, talk about your sideboard.
Sure. So first up, Ewing is just there as like a comeback mechanic. I haven't gotten enough reps to really fully know what in the meta is going to be great, but Ewing is just so good. I always love playing like Maz Kanata first, and then a couple extra cards just to get a 3/3 for 1. Is pretty sweet. The Bright Hope is in there as well as the the 3 cost 3/4 Saboteur. Just as like you're answering what your opponent's trying to do. So if they're going pretty space heavy, the Bright Hope is really good to just kind of block the space lane for a little bit, protect your red 3, protect your Anakin's Interceptor. You can pull back the Republic Tactical Officer as well, just to get to play that back down and give something another +2. However, that's another card that's not a Republic itself. So you're really just kind of using that to block the space lane. From there, the Sundari Peacekeeper is really good into aggro. I love that it's a 3/5 ambush restore 2, or sorry, not ambush, Ray 2. Yeah, and so that's one that I do want to Timely Intervention more often than not, just to go ahead and get that restore, kill something on their board, make that happen. It's also a trooper as well. It's not Republic, but it is a trooper, so it gets you some synergy there too. And so, yeah, for the most part, it's if they're going pretty Sentinel heavy, you put in the Saboteur. If they're going pretty space heavy, you would swap in Bright Hope and the Republic space ship as well, the 3 cost 3/4. It's just good stats. It's nothing too like game breaking or combo heavy. It's just really good stats on a unit.
Yeah. All right, so what do you classify this in the archetypes? Is this aggro, mid range, control, somewhere in the middle
Yeah,
of all those?
I would say between aggro and mid range. So, what your goal is against aggressive lists is to destroy their board and then come over the top that way. Against more control, you're going as fast as you can. You're spamming out as many units as you can, and then just going straight for their face. And so, it's kind of adapting to what that game style is trying to do. I would say this deck actually struggles the most into mid range. Um, but if you can go faster than your opponent, you have a
Yeah, it
good
makes
chance. And
sense.
so, like I said, the space units are really solid. You can win a lot of games just by going heavy space and kind of just ignoring the ground side altogether. And you're just playing out so many units. If they even for a second try to control your board in that game, you can just overwhelm them. Using Padme's ability, again, you're playing with drawing 3 cards every turn compared to their 2.
Awesome. Cool.
So I'd say the last thing just to be mindful of is like coordinate really is key to making this deck work. And so doing everything you can to protect your board in that way is just
Mm,
needed. So if they're trying to control your board, hold back a Clone Wars so you can get that back online. If you ever get down to just 0 or 1 units, you're probably going to lose the game that way. Kind of, it reminds me of the old Leia decks
mm.
where if they were able to clear the board, you pretty much just lost that game. There's not as much ability to come over the top. Another card I would consider in this is just Cassian. Just as a 3 cost, you can smuggle it and just deal 3 damage from your resource pool. It doesn't have a ton of ways to just deal that extra damage that you need. And a card like that or Daring Raid could help you
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Very cool.
So
All right, so get testing for your PQs, guys. Padme is
that's
coming
right.
to town, so yeah. Last word.
Last word. Guys, you can make any leader viable. You just got to get creative, look at what their unit's trying to do, and just make it
Do
happen.
it.
So with Padme, I see this question 24/7 of how do we make Padme good? This is our best shot. Let's make it
I
happen.
love it. Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see some of you at the table.
Happy New Year. See ya.
Bye.